Who's actually going to get the most out of a portable welding rig like the Venture 150S? And who would be better off walking away? If you're the kind of contractor who hops between jobs, a hobbyist who likes to set up shop in the garage, or a small shop owner who needs a machine that can pack a punch without hogging space, you might find this one worth a look. On the flip side, if you're a full-time industrial welder who runs 12-hour shifts on the same piece of equipment every day, the trade-offs start to matter more. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first started digging into the Venture 150S, the thing that kept tripping me up was the fear of buying a jack of all trades that ends up being a jack of none. The welding world is full of machines that promise everything stick, TIG, even a built-in charger only to leave you wrestling with compromises. I scrolled through a handful of forums, skimmed a few YouTube walkthroughs, and looked at the handful of 5-star reviews that the unit has managed to pull in. The consensus was clear: people love the portability and the simplicity, but they also keep a close eye on the battery life and the cooling system's behavior during longer runs. Let's start with the practical side of getting the thing out of the box. The package arrives with the welding unit, a 27-pound battery, and a charger that slots right into the handle. The weight is the first thing you notice. You can actually lift the whole setup with one hand, thanks to the integrated handle. In real life, that means you can load it into the back of a small pickup, or even a roof rack, and be ready to weld a pipe on a residential job site without having to haul a separate generator or a heavy-duty power cord. For a day tripper who needs to move from a basement renovation to an outdoor fence repair, that kind of freedom is a genuine time saver. The inverter technology inside the Venture 150S is marketed as best-in-class arc characteristics, and in practice that translates to a smoother, more consistent bead when you're on stick welding. I tried a quick 1/8-inch mild steel joint in my garage, and the arc held steady even when I slowed my travel speed to finish a tight corner. The same thing happened when I switched to DC TIG mode on a thin-sheet aluminum panel. The arc initiation was clean, and because the machine uses lift arc instead of high-frequency start, I didn't have to worry about interference with nearby electronics, or a buzzing sound that can be annoying in a residential setting. Thermal overload protection is another safety net that shows up in everyday use. While welding a 3/16-inch pipe joint, the machine's temperature sensor kicked in after about 15 minutes of continuous arc, automatically throttling back the output just enough to let the internal heat sink recover. The unit didn't shut down completely, so I could keep working without resetting the whole system. That feature is a subtle but solid reassurance for anyone who's ever had a weld breakdown because the welder decided it was too hot. Now, the battery and charger combo is where the value proposition really gets tested. The 27-pound battery provides enough juice for roughly 2 to 3 hours of moderate welding, depending on the amperage you run. For a typical day on a job site, think a few short stick runs, a couple of TIG passes on a stainless steel rail, and some occasional touch-up work. That's usually sufficient. However, if you're planning a marathon session, say a full day of 200 amp stick welding on structural steel, you'll need to schedule a recharge break or keep a spare battery on hand. The charger is quick enough to bring the pack back to a usable level in about an hour, which is handy if you have a lunch break to kill. One of the most noticeable design choices is the fan on demand cooling system. Instead of running a fan at full speed all the time, the unit only spins the fan when the internal temperature spikes. In my short tests, the fan was silent for the first 10 minutes of welding, then hummed lowly as the machine warmed up. The upside is obvious: you get a quieter workspace, especially if you're welding inside a home or a small shop where a noisy fan can be a nuisance. The downside is that on very hot days, the fan may have to work harder, which can draw a bit more power from the battery and shave a few minutes off your runtime. The operator interface is stripped down to the essentials: just a few knobs and a digital readout that shows amperage, voltage, and battery level. For a beginner, that simplicity can be a relief because there's no endless menu of settings to get lost in. For a seasoned welder who likes to fine-tune waveforms or adjust preset programs, the lack of advanced controls could feel limiting. I found that after a couple of hours the interface became second nature, but if you ever need a custom pulse for a specific alloy, you'll have to look elsewhere. So,